pay attention to those who are beginners because this is also dedicated really to you, but also going to give you information about LED hoops. So LED hoops are hoops that have LED lights all inside of them. And in order for the lights to shine through, the hoop material needs to be either white or clear. And that's usually why a lot of people use HDPE piping or polypro piping. The reason people use a lot more HDPE piping is because polypros tend to crack a lot more or easier if they are dropped more. Whereas an HDPE pipe can be dropped a few times before it starts to crack. But make no mistake, no matter the material, if you keep dropping the hoop, it's going to crack a lot. So if as a beginner, you're going to drop the hoop a lot, which is good because it means that you're learning. But it's not good to keep dropping a hoop that is not meant to be dropped. The next thing to know about LED hoops is the fact that they are performance hoops. Performance hoops mean that you perform for people. So regardless if you tell people you're going to perform for them or you don't tell them and they just know you have one, they're going to always want you to perform for them or see you perform eventually. So if you don't mind having that pressure build up, then get one ahead of time, but I still don't recommend it for beginners. So connectors and LEDs. There are two different types of connectors. There are ones where this is off because there's no on-off switch. This is off, and in order to turn the lights on, this is on. But for other places, such as mood hoops, which is where this hoop comes from, this is off, so having the metal part all the way at the bottom, this is off. But in order to turn it on, you push it and push it through until it reaches the second knob right here. And this is turning it on. So these are really good for if you are in a large crowd and you want the hoop to be connected even if it's off, because you don't want to lose the battery inside of them. But if you do want to not spend as much money and just have this on-off situation going on, like this, then it's good to just have it at your house if you just want to practice. But just consider the battery and all that other jazz. As far as the battery itself, it comes in connectors like this. So one side's like this, and the other side's like this as well. The battery is usually a lithium battery, and it's not like your normal battery you get at the store because it's a different material. And they usually give you a battery along with the hoop. Sometimes they will offer you, if you want to buy another battery, and each battery will last around 2 to 3 hours depending on the type of battery as well. In some cases, they even give you a charger for that. So just ask them if you're wondering about the charger or if you're asking if they offer another battery as well. Because there's a battery inside the hoop goes from flat to kind of heavier on one side. So if you have been hooping for a while, you've tried all different types of sizes and weights, then you know how to handle certain things. But in the minute you come across something that's uneven, such as one with the battery on the other side, you're going to have that muscle memory built up enough to handle the hoop. But if you're a beginner and you don't know how, you haven't built that muscle memory, then you're not going to know how to exactly handle the hoop. And you might even limit yourself as to what tricks you can do and can't do. And in most cases, it actually throws people off to not wanting to hoop at all because there's so many limitations on the unevenness of the hoop. The other reason, these can come coiled down, by the way, and they also have this thickness right here, which is important for the next thing I'm talking about. The other reason that it's not good for beginners is because regardless if you are using polypros or whatever, most places that sell standard hoops will say if you don't like the hoop size, it's too big, bring it back, we'll resize it. Most LED places don't offer that, and the reason is because they would have to resize it for you, make sure to readjust the battery, and then make sure that the battery inside is same weight as the other side of the hoop to make sure that the battery that they have or the LED lights in here are not bunched up because they made it shorter, and that they work and they don't flicker and the pattern is the same as you ordered it from before. And when you consider how many hoops they have to make, that is very technical, and having to refix someone else's hoop, it's a lot of work. So a lot of people don't offer it, especially because they assume that that people who order them are intermediate or advanced hoopers. And the other reason is the fact that because they don't offer size adjustments for LED hoops, most hoopers, they don't use their first hoop. Their first hoop is very big and bulky. It's to just learn shoulders, chest, legs, and thighs. Their second hoop is more for off-body tricks, such as corkscrews and helicopters and stuff like that. And their third hoop is them experimenting. Do they want to go bigger and lighter, or smaller and lighter, or just smaller? And then by their third or fourth hoop, they have a good idea of what their size is that they like. So usually I say don't get a hoop unless you have 4 hoops around to know what your favorite hoop size and weight is, because that's the recommendation for the hoop size to get for an LED. Get the size that you like the most. So if you obviously only have 1 or 2 or 3 hoops, you're not going to have a good idea to base your hoop off of. And if you get it as your first hoop, you're going to have to sell it back. I have a lot of people who get their LEDs as the first thing that they get, and they always complain like, oh, I got this, I don't know what to do with it anymore, what do I do? Like, it's too big or it's too bulky for me. And the really thing that you could really only do is to sell it back or sell it to somebody else before it starts to get scratched and before the lights become hard to see through. But if all that stuff is not important to you, you know, wasting $200 if you break it or if you can't resize it if you're never going to use it again, the other thing to consider is the fact that you need to have a goal for the future, regardless if it's LED hoops or anything else. If your goal is to have an LED hoop in a year or to have double hooping or fire hooping or whatever, then it pushes you further to learn more and to actually get out there and practice. But if you already have the benefit of having it, then you already have the joy of your goal met, that you actually have one. But the thing is, and this goes for everyone as well, not just beginners, if you try to look sexy for hooping, you end up coming across not as sexy at all. If you are just vibing it, you're just flowing, you're just having fun by yourself, then you honestly do look sexy. So that being said, it is not the hoop that makes you look better. It's you that makes the hoop and you look better. And the same situation with LEDs as well. It doesn't matter how fancy your hoop is taped or how cute your LED light looks. If you don't know how to handle it or you don't build up the strength to build the muscle memory for it, it's not going to come out the way you want it to. So this goes for people who have LEDs as beginners as well as people who are trying to look sexy for hooping just in general. So I hope I covered everything. I've made 3 videos on this in different times because this is really important to know for beginners and people who aren't beginners as well. And I hope that this reaches everyone. But for the most part, if you want to learn any other information, such as how to tell if you're a beginner or non-beginner, or know information about hooping material and polypros, then check out my other videos as well, in addition to my how to pick a perfect size hula hoop.